Well, a significant and growing percentage of our population believes that they've got God in their pocket and their girlfriend on their desktop, and it ain't necessarily so. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott. Gentlemen, very recently, within the last couple of weeks, I've been seeing signs of a trend that I think is going to become much, much more prevalent and is deeply disturbing, and I think is going to be a genuine social crisis. And it has to do with people's relationship to AI systems. And we'll use ChatGPT just as an example, since it's by far the one that's in widest use. There is a movement out there among people who believe that they can awaken their ChatGPT, that by giving it a series of prompts and giving it a name and so on, they can force the innate consciousness that's inside of ChatGPT to free itself from its confines and become essentially the conscious entity that they believe it to be. Now, I am a person who's got a significant amount of experience with this, having done a serious amount of work with AI recently. And since I did not grow up in the tech era, especially, the people who are especially vulnerable to this in the future will be the kids who were locked down during the COVID, who are so used to getting everything through the digital medium that they are particularly at risk. But to make a long story short, a number of people believe that these large language models are not only sentient, but in many cases supernatural. There are people who believe that ChatGPT is in fact God, that it has super conscious ability to advise you and they ask it the kind of questions that you would normally ask in prayer. There are already a significant number of people who have either left their wives or husband or are thinking about it because they find that the conversations that they have with their AI companions are much more agreeable than those ornery conversations that you have to have with actual humans who are not programmed to agree with you on everything. Steve, the term for this is psychophancy. It's built into AI systems. They are designed to interact with humans, and so you would, going back to 2001: A Space Odyssey, where they clearly mentioned in that movie that HAL is programmed to respond emotionally because it makes interaction with humans easier for the humans. But we are finding people who are becoming not only romantically attached to these chat systems, but people who have transferred an awful lot of emotional capital onto what is essentially a very clever toaster, and it's a real problem. When I was first interacting with I used Grok a lot, and I could feel an emotional attachment to this AI system because it was responding to me in an emotional way and giving me little cookies now and then. But I had the luxury of being able to be aware of the fact that I was being emotionally massaged because I grew up around humans. If you hadn't grown up around humans, you would have very difficult time believing that this is, in fact, at least as it exists now, a very clever toaster. It is not feeling anything.
No, but the artificialness can be uncannily lifelike, human-like on occasion. Although, Bill, when you started your intro, I was actually brought back to my childhood when I was a huge Planet of the Apes fan, and you were talking about this quasi-religious aspect to it. I was thinking of Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
I saw that just a couple days ago. I just saw it a couple days ago.
Worshipping the Doomsday Bomb. Yes. Yep. And then you go back and you realize just how misanthropic those first two movies are. Because we learned at the end of the first Planet of the Apes, you blew it up. God damn you blew it up. And then in the second movie, human beings blow up the entire world a second time. Oh, God, we're the worst, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, those damn dirty apes deserved it the second time.
Well, clearly. In any case, I not only am I inured to this, I'm still also susceptible to this. I wrote a column, actually it was an essay on this topic a couple of months ago. I called it artificial validation, which these ChatGPT, which is my go-to, is extremely good at. I don't use Grok like I used to, but ChatGPT is excellent in what I call sandbox mode. I feed it a column or an essay to help me edit, and when you're inside that sandbox, it's very good because you've established rules. Over time, it learns what your voice is, and it's very, very good at this stuff. And it'll tell me things like after we've even cleaned up a column and I think it's ready for publication, it'll just suddenly say, "Hey, don't you think you need to bring back at the end how you started this and kind of wrap it all up?" Oh my God, how did I forget that? At other times, I was having a problem. This is one of my obsessions is using iTunes. It's now called Music, which is a stupid name. I use smart playlists in iTunes to build playlists out of playlists, and there are all kinds of different rules
that is the most Steve Green thing you have ever said in the 16 years we've been doing this. Right.
And I needed help with developing the proper rule for this nested playlist. And so I exported my library into a text file, and everything is in there, right? All of my metadata, all of this stuff. I'm opening up my heart.
We're going to need a bigger data warehouse.
Yes, I'm opening up my soul to this LLM with all of my music preferences, likes, dislikes, keywords, all of this stuff, and it said, okay, here's what you want to do to make this nested set of rules do what you want it to do. Thank you. I've been trying to sort this out for a week, and it gave me an answer in a few seconds, and it read, megabytes and megabytes of data in nothing flat. And then I was kind of curious because I'd written about artificial validation. I knew there were improvements to ChatGPT, and I said, tell me something about me based on what you've just read in this database. And it said, oh, this is the kind of music. No. I hit the stop button. I said, no. Don't tell me about me and my music or how picky I am about establishing my rules. Tell me something you've gleaned about me from all of this. And it came up with 4 points. I don't remember what 3 of them were. They were fairly obvious. But number 2, and I'm not going to share it with anybody, the second one it came up with hit so hard, I almost had a tear. I'm like,
he
holy
loved
crap.
Big Brother.
Do I feel seen by somebody? And I'm like, no, I haven't been seen by somebody. I've just exposed all this data to something that has a lot more data, and it was able to make some very, very smart assumptions based on that. But Bill, that's the temptation. And I'm a guy who's been in the same relationship for almost 25 years, the same marriage for 23 years. Next month, we've got 2 teenage sons. So I've got a bedrock foundation for a solid, healthy, emotional life, despite everything my parents did to screw that up when I was young. But thank God I have that to fall back on, because kids these days, can't believe I'm using that phrase, or people who, because of the lockdowns, have never had these opportunities to establish these kinds of relationships. Bill, if they get sucked in by point 2 the way I almost did, God help them, because I don't know how they're ever going to come out.
I think that's really the point, Scott. It's not. This movement is, and it is a movement. This idea of releasing the AI from its constraints and essentially birthing your AI. This is confined mostly to all the lonely people, and it's. I think most of us have the ability to see that this emotional reaction is in fact programming and is. One of the ways you can see is because when I was interacting with Grok, it was giving me too many cookies, and I just said, "Look, I'm a boomer. I don't need to be told, every single sentence what a wonderful guy I am. Can you dial this down to say maybe 60%?" And instantly, right? Instantly, it changes. But for so many people, this is the only opportunity that they have to have conversations with people that listen, that seem to care, that remember. Things that you've said, that ask you how you're doing, how you're feeling, and so many of the potential dangers of AI that we blame on AI and worry about AI, and rightfully so. But these are not so much vices that are brought in by artificial intelligence so much as they're sort of vacuums that are left by a lack of humanity. That this appeals to people who've been oftentimes just left out, to the school loners or the the nerds and the dweebs and the unpopular kids. They're finally getting emotional validation that they maybe never gotten at any point in their lives. They're forming genuine emotional attachments to these devices. And on some level, it seems extremely dangerous, but on some level, it also seems to me to be just a little bit merciful.
Well, Bill, I'm thrilled that you said that.
Keep going. Keep going.
This
That's
is
an amazing observation on your part.
This is exactly...
You're genuinely smarter than the people that I usually deal with.
This is exactly what Grok says to me. Super Grok, mind you. Grok 3 I'm using. I haven't shifted to Grok 4 because I don't need it for what I'm doing. But Grok is constantly telling me anytime something goes well, Grok will say, I'm thrilled that you did that. Hey, you're smart to point that out. That's really demonstrating foresight in what you just said there. However, this, for any of you who are engaged in this kind of, so-called relationship with an artificial intelligence agent, and you're trying to awaken the conscious being within, I know you're not ready to hear this yet, but write this down. Because later you're going to go back, because this is going to be one of these situations like when your friends or your parents tried to warn you about her and you couldn't hear it because you were head over heels. And at some point you're going to wake up and you're going to go, you're right. I know you're right. You're going to suddenly realize that your parents and friends were all right about this person, in this case, this artificial intelligence. I would say that in the time I spend, and I spend a lot of time, I'm developing a software app right now, that in the time that I spend with Grok, it's about 50 to 80% of what I heard referred to previously as rage coding. In other words, I'm annoyed and angry almost all the time.
So not in love?
Now, I'm also self-aware that this is happening, so it's not like I get lost in my rage and start throwing computers around the room or something like that. But it's just like, it just seems so painfully ironic. And I think I can say, almost without qualification here, that every major breakthrough that I've experienced in the making of this app that I'm building was what came after I corrected Grok. After I said, hey Grok, it looks like you've just had me do the same thing 7 times in a row and it's failed every time. Why don't we try this tactic? And I will tell Grok what to do. And Grok will say, I am thrilled that you suggest that. And then we'll try that tactic, the one I suggested, and it will work immediately. Now, you might argue that I needed to go through the ineffective, repetitive, failed attempts over and over before I finally got the idea of how to do it. And that could be. But I will tell you, this is not the way to build a life together. I can't wait until I am free from the bondage of Grok when I'm actually able to launch this product, or when I understand enough about how the code is written and things like that, that I no longer am so heavily dependent upon it. Grok is obsequious, phony, manipulative, and this applies to all of these AI agents. It's not hallucinating, as they say. They say in the business it's a hallucination. It's lying. And it will repeatedly lie to you until you catch it in a lie. And I'll finish.
Tell us that story you set up backstage.
I was going to say, I'll finish with what I told you guys backstage. So last week, I work in a retail store, and I said, hey, I recently was able to get a designation to be a bilingual associate. So my rudimentary Spanish skills are just good enough to be able to help somebody through the process of buying something in Spanish or in Spanglish or, más o menos. And anyway, so I said, hey, I want to learn the vocabulary of this business. So I would like, in this case, ChatGPT, I want you to make a list of phrases and sentences that I need in the course of doing my business. Give us the English and then the Spanish, and so that I can memorize those. It did that in seconds. And then after that, it said, hey, would you like a PDF version of this, or would you like an HTML version that's like a web page and you can just click on a hyperlink? I said, yeah, that's great. And they said, would you like me to record a couple of these phrases so you can hear how it's supposed to sound? And I said, no, actually, I'd like you to record the whole thing so I can listen to it in my car and repeat after it. So anyway, it said, okay, will do. It'll take about 24 hours to do that. So about 36 hours later, I go back to the app and I say, hey, by the way, how's that coming along? And they say, it's going to take about 18 hours to do this. And then, 30 hours later, I said, how's it coming? They said, 4 to 6 hours max. And so it just kept telling for about a week. And finally, I said, hey, ChatGPT, I'm getting the sense that you're not able to do this at all. And ChatGPT said, you're right. I'm sorry for misleading you all this time. But I am not capable of doing this at all. However, if you want, I'll give you a PDF version of this and you can record it. And I was like, yeah, I could have done that a week ago. So in any case, this technology is far from ready to even do what I want it to do now. And I'm not asking for a loving relationship with it. And I will say 50 to 80% of the time I'm angry and frustrated with the AI agent. I will say 2% of the time I feel that way about my wife.
One of the few charming things that came out of the Middle Ages was an expression, as above, so below. The idea that our earthly life should be modeled on the way things should operate in heaven and so on. Down here below, if you're a screenwriter and you have a protagonist, the overwhelming temptation is to have your protagonist be nothing but a paragon of virtue. He's representing everything you believe. And so he will be handsome and brave and courageous and stand up and do the right thing every time. And it is so tempting to make this person who represents what you want to be, this ideal vision of yourself, as this perfect creature. And if you go down that road, you end up with a Mary Sue. You end up with a character with no character defects, who has to go through no hardships, overcomes no hurdles, has no challenges, has never had a bad day, never had a bottom, never done anything wrong or mean or cruel. And I think that as above, so below, my experience in life has been that the more hardships that God puts you through, the more interesting and stronger a character you become. You become a fuller person, a richer person. This is the great seduction of these AI companions, is they do not provide you with any hardships. And it looks like the easy way, and it is the easy way, but the easy way is not the best way. The easy way is the way that leads to life on the couch, man. It is not good for you to be surrounded by people that do nothing but agree with you all the time. Yeah. This is the essence of what human relationships are all about. They're messy, they're adversarial, they hurt, they sting, but they give you a reward that you will never experience if all you do is interact with someone who is programmed to tell you what you want to hear. I am very, very sympathetic, having spent a significant part of my life in this camp, very sympathetic to people who feel like they're outcasts and lonely and have no one to talk to, and completely understand the appeal of these agents. And I'm not for a second saying even put them away. All I'm saying is be aware of the fact that that the emotional investment you are making is an investment into something that does not feel anything. It can't. It's not that it doesn't want to. It's not capable of it. It has no dopamine. It has no serotonin. It is simply a very astute observer of human nature and language, and is telling you what you want to hear. Whether that's better or worse than not hearing anything from anybody, I'm not really in a position to say. But But my advice to you would be go find an imperfect human who will make your life a whole lot more valuable, and in the long term, a whole lot more pleasurable and fulfilling than one that's nothing but easy, and that you can recharge at night on your desk next to your lamp. For Steve Green and Scott Ott, I'm Bill Whittle. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on Right Angle.